3 league champions could be crowned over the next 7 days, but how many will? Yes, hello and welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat, the show dedicated to all things FAWNL. That's the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m. bringing you the very latest from those 6 divisions, and we are getting into crunch time in the 23-24 season. As I said in the introduction there, 3 league titles could be crowned this weekend. Some of them are unlikely, one is incredibly likely, but we'll get onto all of that after we have done what we always start with here on the Women's Football Chat, and that is with the news. So big news, and it's kind of personal news this week, is that the Women's Football Chat has a new home on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. You are now looking for on Twitter the handle at WFootballChat. At WFootballChat is the new home of this show, and essentially I've been thinking about doing it for a while, but if you're new here particularly, we're on episode 130 now of this show, and I was just starting to feel as though trying to do this show on my main Twitter account alongside all of my stuff for the BBC and the Nottingham Panthers ice hockey team, that the show was kind of getting lost in and amongst all my other Twitter stuff, and I was noticing that the majority of people on my main Twitter account were reacting to the ice hockey and all that stuff. So I thought I'd give the show its own account where it's got the chance to breathe and can just be a bit more active and bring you more of the information. We have got, of course, coming up towards the end of May, the summer knockout tournament. So everything to do with the summer knockout tournament, particularly all of the voting and everything, will be all the links will be from the W Football Chat Twitter page now. So everything to do with women's football has moved over to there. If you're not already following, then please do so. The show itself, the YouTube links, will stay on their original YouTube channel, which is my YouTube page, but all the Twitter stuff will now move over to that new account. So that's really the big news. Of course, we are now just getting to the point in the league season where we're trying to get as many teams as possible to 20 games before next week. Kind of working, also very much not working. We're having to play a lot of games on the 28th. We're still getting postponements. The weather, although it's sunny at the moment, and my cat has decided, or one of my cats has decided to sunbathe on the windowsill next to me while I record this show. We are still seeing postponements. There was one postponed yesterday. We've got some games on today which may or may not happen. We'll have to see about that. Yeah, it's still getting a little bit interesting, shall we say. And obviously with this end of the season now being 3.5 weeks away, we only have 4 more Sundays between now and the end of the season. We are really starting to run out of time and panic somewhat, shall we say, for some of these games which aren't taking place. My cat now wants to leave, excuse me. There you go. The postman came and she didn't like the postman, so she has to go and investigate. So yeah, we're really getting to that time where the games are starting to run out, and I think we were very much expecting the weather to be behind us now and games being played regularly, and it's just not happening. as I said, with the end of the season now, 4 Sundays away, we really are starting for teams that have got, 5, maybe even 6 games to play, really starting to run out of time. But not a huge amount gone on over the last 7 days, because teams have been not playing games because they've played so many earlier on in the season. So reduced schedule of fixture results to have a look back on, and a very reduced lot of fixtures coming up this Sunday, because teams are just trying to catch up. These are all the teams playing their games in hand, essentially. But we will, of course, go through everything again. And go through all the tables, look at the run-ins, how results have changed, because the look at, particularly at the bottom of some of the tables, the looks have changed over the last week. We will start then in the north. 4 games to talk through from the last week. All are, three on Sunday and 1 last night. We will start Burnley beating Huddersfield by 3-1. Goals in this one, quick-fire goals towards the start. One for Alifa Paul to put Burnley in front on the 22nd minute, but that only lasted for 1 minute before Rebecca Beresford equalised for Huddersfield. Couldn't take that into half-time though. Monique Robinson, just 7 minutes later on the half-hour mark, put Burnley in front 2-1. They would hold that through to half-time, and then Laura Elford immediately after half-time would make it 3-1, and Burnley able to hold on for that result. Stoke against Fylde was postponed. That has already been rearranged for that 28th of April. It was the obvious choice. Nobody else in the north playing that day as it stands. So they're going in there. They were both free, made very much sense. Forest winning away at Stourbridge by 2-0. 2 for Charlotte Greengrass in the 4th and the 25th minute. So not as many. A good indicator really there from Stourbridge as how they have progressed over the course of the season. If you may remember, way back on opening day, immediately after the World Cup final, Forest put 7 past Stourbridge on opening day. Then they get the reverse fixture right at the end of the season, and Forest only win by 2-0. So it does kind of show the progress that Stourbridge have made in their first season in Tier 3. Convincing victory for Wolves, though, at home to Halifax, winning by 5-1. Halifax doing their best to help Wolves out, particularly early on. An own goal in the 1st minute and an own goal in the 12th minute meant that Wolves were 2-0 up before they'd even put the ball in the net themselves. And that was within, as I said, 15 minutes there. Sophie Bramford then getting 2 off the substitutes bench for Wolves in the second half, 69th and 82nd minute. Amber Hughes getting 1 in the middle of those 2 in the 73rd. Halifax did get a consolation goal through Lucy Sowerby in the 93rd minute, but Wolves convincing victory as you would expect. But a much better showing from Halifax in last night's game at home to Burnley. Goals in this one, only one for Halifax to Katie Ramsden in the 57th minute. This was after Burnley, who haven't put their lineup on the full time yet, but it was only last night. One for Pryor in the 16th minute, and it looked as though it was heading for a 1-1 result. However, Laura Elford popping up in the 97th minute to get Burnley their winner, backing up Gracie Pryor's goal in the first half. 97th minute, Halifax's hearts sink, quite frankly, and it would have been a valuable point for them. It doesn't really change too much in Halifax's fight down towards the bottom. The 3 points for Burnley keeps their mathematical hope of promotion alive, although realistically it's not going to happen. Let's then have a look at that Northern Premier Division table, and this is one of the leagues which could see a title won this weekend. In fact, this is the league where it is the most likely that we will see the title won this weekend. Newcastle are 7 points clear of Burnley with 3 games to play. They are 11 points clear of Forest. Forest have 4 games to play. Should Newcastle win this weekend, and it is likely that they will, because they are facing Huddersfield Town at home. And Huddersfield Town, as you can see there, down in 11. So it is highly likely that Newcastle will win, and that will see them promoted into the Championship, coming straight from Tier 4 into Tier 3 and then straight through into the Championship. It is, in all fairness, what everybody expected at the start of this season when Newcastle went fully professional. So Burnley in second, Forest in third, Wolves in fourth. You can see there's been no movement whatsoever, despite all those games being played in the Northern Premier Division. Down towards the bottom, though, because Fylde's game against Stoke was postponed on Sunday, it means they live to fight another week, but they have Wolves this weekend and they must win to stand a chance of staying up. They now have to win all 4 of their remaining games for a chance to stay up, and then they're relying on other results going their way. Wolves is the difficult one for Fylde. They then have Huddersfield, big game. Stoke are in 6th, that's a challenging one as well, and then Halifax on the final day, but they do have to win all of their games. Huddersfield Town 7 points away from safety with 4 games to go. They could also be down this weekend. It could be all over in the Northern Premier Division by the time we do the show next week, because Huddersfield Town have Forest tonight as it stands. Could of course get called off, probably won't, but we never know. And then Newcastle at the weekend. If they lose both of those games, they will be 7 points away from safety with only 2 games remaining, so they will be relegated. Fylde are likely not to beat Wolves, so then they will be relegated, and the 2 relegation spots will be determined this weekend. Of course, if Huddersfield lose to Newcastle, that means Newcastle will win, and then promotion will be decided as well, and everything in the Northern Premier Division will be done with still 3 weeks of the season left to play. And that is what is probably likely to happen. You're expecting Newcastle to win, you're expecting Wolves to win. So it may well be that everything is done in the North next week. In the Southern Premier Division, only 2 results. Ipswich Town beating Milton Keynes Dons by 1-0. The only goal of that game coming to Natasha Thomas in the 44th minute. She puts them in front just before half time, and they hold on to that for the remainder of the game. And Portsmouth now just within 1 point of promotion to the Championship after beating Plymouth Argyle by 3-0. Lisa Rutherford in the 10th minute, then an own goal in the 18th put Portsmouth 2-0 up at half time. Reva Castley, 6 minutes from the end, tripled the advantage. 3-0 Portsmouth win. And as I said, they are 1 point now away from promotion into the Championship. And that is because #United are 9 points behind with 3 games to go. However, if you have a look, yes, okay, #United, they have to win all 3 of their games and hope Portsmouth lose both of their games. There is only 1 game in the Southern Premier Division this weekend, and it is between those 2 teams which have only played 19 games. Against Ipswich, and it is at Ipswich. Must win that game to keep any hope alive. However, if you look at the goal difference, there is currently a goal difference swing of 43 in favour of Portsmouth. So not only have United got to win all 3 of their games, they've got to average about 13-14 goals a game in order to make up that deficit, and hope that Portsmouth lose their final 2 games, which are Cheltenham, who are down in 7th, and London Bees, who are bottom and haven't won all season long. realistically, Portsmouth are going to get promoted into the Championship. It just remains to be seen. Is it this weekend if hashtag fail to beat Ipswich, or is it next weekend when Portsmouth get something you would expect out of the game against Cheltenham? It is just a matter of time there. Both the teams in the Southern Premier Division have been relegated, as we knew last week. So it could well be that both Tier 3 leagues are completely done by the time this show goes out this time next week. So it is that Tier 4 is much more interesting than Tier 3. Let's have a look then at Tier 4. We'll start with Division 1 Midlands. The big game down towards the bottom, Sheffield against Leek, was postponed. So we'll move to Lincoln City against Peterborough United. That Sheffield Leek game was last Thursday's game. So we'll move to Lincoln City against Peterborough United. Very kind of back and forth game in this one, particularly early on. So Emily Brett gave Peterborough United the lead just 5 minutes into this game, but a quick-fire double for Lincoln City. Madison Green in the 13th, Leah Hardy in the 18th, meant that Lincoln all of a sudden took a 2-1 lead, and they held that through to half-time, but couldn't hold on to it in the second half. Emily Brett in the 73rd minute, she got her second of the game, made it 2-2, and then an own goal with 7 minutes to go gave Peterborough United all 3 points. So really difficult afternoon for Lincoln City, considering they conceded that own goal so late on. But huge in Division 1 Midlands down towards the bottom. Leafield Athletic going to Northampton Town and winning 1-0. Sienna McCann-Lloyd in the 87th minute, the goal there for Leafield Athletic. Hugely valuable 3 points for them. And then a similar situation in the 3 o'clock start between Sheffield and Boldmere St Michael's. Sheffield winning that game by 2-1. Boldmere St Michael's in the top third of the league. Sheffield bottom of the table, and they get the 3 points thanks to a very, very late goal. Millie Fugger in the 39th minute had put Sheffield in front. They held that to half-time. Chloe Bickley equalised for Boldmere St Michael's in the 67th minute. And then Mia McDonald, the super sub, let's put it that way, comes on in the 85th minute of the game and scores the winner in the 97th minute of the game. A huge 3 points for Sheffield. If we look at the table, yes, they stay bottom, but had they not secured those 3 points, they would be 8 points away from safety with only 3 games to play. As it stands, they are 5. It is still very difficult. Let's not beat around the bush. It is still difficult for Sheffield, but they have given themselves another chance. Those 3 points for Leafield Athletic, though, 2 places they have jumped up into 9th. They're out the relegation zone by 3 points over Leek Town. Yes, Leek Town have got a couple of games in hand. One of those is against Sheffield, a huge 6-pointer coming up. But Leafield Athletic have really given themselves the opportunity now to stay in the FAWNL. They have 2 games left to go. They are difficult games. They are Sporting Cowser and they are Peterborough. They are 2 of the top 3 teams. Does that mean that 17 points is all Leafield are going to get? It could well be. But they did go to Northampton in 5th and get 3 points. The fight down towards the bottom, Notts County, 2 games to go. Lincoln City and Northampton Town, much easier than Leafield Athletic. Leek Town, they have 4 games to go. There is that huge 6-pointer against Sheffield coming up. Then they've got Sutton, Peterborough and Solihull Moors. Sutton in 7th, Peterborough 3rd, Solihull Moors 6th. Probably roughly on par with Notts County. Sheffield have 3 games to go. That huge game against Leek Town coming up this weekend. Loughborough away, Sporting at home. Sheffield have got to play the top 2 and they need wins in those games. If they are able to beat Leek Town, they're still going to need either a couple of draws or a win and hope that results don't go their way. It's still difficult, but if they're going down, they are certainly going down fighting. Towards the top then, Boldmere St Michael's are now out of it, which is something we kind of expected anyway. Peterborough United pretty much out of it. They're 9 points away from the top. They've got a goal difference which is significantly less. And as we've kind of highlighted there, Loughborough and Sporting, they're all playing teams down towards the bottom. It's very unlikely that neither of them get a point from those like 4 games combined. So it is a 2-horse race. Are you with Loughborough or are you with Sporting in this title race to get into the Northern Premier Division? Let me know. Loughborough, Sheffield at home, Lincoln away, Sporting, Leafield away, Sheffield away. So on that basis, you've got to say that Sporting playing teams down towards the bottom in 9th and 12th, that beats 8th and 12th. But Sporting need Loughborough to slip up in one of those games. If Sporting can win both of those games, Loughborough drop points in one of them, Sporting will go up on goal difference. But I think that one is going to come down to the final day of the season. Division 1 North then, and talking about teams having a real fight for it, FC United of Manchester beating Leeds by 5 goals to 4 last Thursday. Goals in this one coming to Sean Ajin in the 13th and the 85th minute, Ivo Carroll in the 56th, Naomi Lawrence in the 71st, and Sasha Lewis in the 87th. Leeds' goals, 2 for Katie Astle in the 9th and the 67th minute, and 2 for Ellie Dobson in the 53rd and the 90+ first. Such a back and forth game. 1-0 Leeds, 1-1. Then that's how you go into half time. Then in the second half, 2-1 Leeds, 2-2, 3-2 Leeds, 3-3, 4-3, 5-3, 5-4. Such a back and forth game between those two sides. Not so entertaining between Chester Street Town and Stockport. A 0-0 draw, but that's a superb point for Chester Street Town. Hull City doing what they need to do as they try to get back into the Northern Premier Division. They beat Chorley by 2 goals to 0. Shakala Brooks in the 68th minute, Rachel Ackroyd in the 86th. Barnsley 4-0 away win against York City despite being down 2-10. But 2 for Louise Biggins in the 4th and the 66th minute. A penalty for Rosie Axton in the 60th, and then 1 for Jodie Mikauska in the 90th minute rounds off the scoring for Barnsley. Therefore, in the table, a lot of movement at the top. Hull City go to the top of the table in mid-April. They have 3 games to go. They are a point clear of Middlesbrough. Barnsley are up to 3rd, but they are realistically probably out of it. 6 points off the top with a goal difference worse than Hull's. Durham as well are out of it now. They've dropped down to 4th. They are 7 points back with a couple of games to go. It's all the same down towards the bottom, but it has closed up. FC United of Manchester with that win. 3 points now away from safety in the Division 1 North. However, they have 2 games to go and they have to win both of them. And the reason I say that is because Chester Street Town in 10th are facing York in 11th this weekend. So there are obviously 3 possible outcomes to this game. Outcome number 1 is York City win. And then they move on to 12. FC United of Manchester are 4 points away from safety with 2 games to go, but a goal difference which is so much worse. It's you're talking 34 at the moment, so at least 35 worse than York City with just 2 games to go. So they would have to win both because tying them on points is very likely not to do it. Option number 2 is a draw, in which case Chester Street Town move to 12, Same situation for FC United of Manchester. The goal difference not quite as bad, 31 as opposed to 35, but still not something that's going to be made up in 2 games. Option number 3, Chester Street Town win. The gap is then 6 points, and with a goal difference of 32, it's extremely unlikely that that will get made up and FC United of Manchester will basically be relegated. So either a draw or a York City win is what FC United and Manchester need, but they do then have to win both of their remaining 2 games. They have Doncaster Rovers Bells and then Hull City on the final day of the season. And what a turn up that would be if FC United and Manchester get a win they need against Hull City, and how that would open up the Division 1 North title race in the final day of the season. York City then, the other team down in the bottom 2, they have 4 games remaining. As I've mentioned, there is that one against Chester Street Town coming up this weekend. They then have Hull, who are first, Stockport, who are 6th, and Middlesbrough, who are 2nd. It's very much time running out for York City. Chester Street Town, that game against York. Durham Cestra, who are 4th, Chorley, who are 9th, and Leeds, who are 5th. So Chester Street Town very much have the better running of all 3 teams there. It does really hinge on that game this weekend. If they can win that game this weekend, they would probably done enough to survive. Division 1 South East results then, and we have relegations to talk about in this league. Actonians beating Haywards Heath Town by 5 goals to 2 at the weekend. 2 for Rochelle Shakes in the 8th and the 23rd minute on this one. Tori St Clair getting a hat-trick, 16th, 57th and 73rd minute. 2 for Haywards Heath Town, 1 for Naomi Cole and 1 for Brooke Garcia. Norwich City keeping up the fight against AFC Wimbledon by winning away at Cambridge United by 4 goals to 2. Goals in this one: Hope Strauss from the spot in the 27th minute, 2 for Natasha Snelling in the 29th and the 49th, and 1 for Holly Kennard in the 82nd minute. Cambridge United's goals coming to Brooklyn Chill-Ferris in the 10th minute and Alicia Stockjoe Down in the 70th. A draw between London Seaward and Chesham United. Neither of these sides now in any sort of danger. Samantha Lanza with the goal for London Seaward and Natasha Smith with the goal for Chesham United in the 15th minute. Norwich then, we can move into midweek and we start on Tuesday where Norwich City beat Cambridge City by 6 goals to 0. Scoring opened early, Lauren Tomlinson in just the 2nd minute, Natasha Snelling in the 15th, Rachel Lawrence in the 45th plus 1 and the 49th, Lauren Hales in the 54th and Freya Simmons off the subs bench in the 61st minute. A result that would mean Cambridge City drop down into Tier 5. And then last night, 7-goal thriller between Ashford Town and AFC Wimbledon. Goals for both of these sides then. Obviously, they only have the surnames on at the moment, so just bear with me 1 second because it was only last night. The whole game detail isn't yet on full time. So goal for Hannah Mackenzie for Wimbledon in the 16th minute, then Breon Grant in the 33rd, Sky Bacon in the 35th, and then Sandra Martins in the 53rd for Ashford. As I said, they came out on the wrong side of this. It was 2 there for Alyssa Down in the 30th and the 47th minute, and 1 for Ashley Cheatley in the 75th. Southeast table then, both sides relegated. Haywards Heath Town and Cambridge City are both down out of Division 1 Southeast. They will be in Tier 5 next season. So Chesham United, AFC Sudbury, both safe. AFC Sudbury, of course, in their first year in Tier 4 after getting promoted last year. Fought hard all season and have got their reward with another year in Division 1 South East. Norwich keeping the pressure up on AFC Wimbledon. Wimbledon doing what they need to do so far. This is the other league where, in theory, it could be finished this weekend. If Norwich were to lose to Haywards Heath Town and Wimbledon were to beat London Seawood, the gap would be 10 points with 3 games to play for Norwich. But that means that Norwich have to lose to Haywards Heath Town, who are bottom of the league. That's unlikely to happen, but it is a possibility that Wimbledon could win the league this weekend. Even if Norwich win their game in hand, they're still then 2 games essentially behind Wimbledon. So it looks as though Wimbledon have just got to keep ticking along. Really, they've got, as I said, they've got London Seawood in 8th. Then they've got Worthing, which is the difficult game, in 3rd. Actonians in 5th. It's not the easiest of run-ins for Wimbledon, but you just sense they've got enough to get themselves over the line. South West then, 5 games to talk about here. Moneyfields beating Southampton Women's by 3-0. Goals in this one, when my computer stops being a little bit slow, there we go. So goals in this one. 2, Kimberly Fuller in the 20th minute, Carolina Taylor in the 25th, and 2, Kira Heslem in the 46th minute, the goals for Moneyfields. Bridgewater are losers to AFC Bournemouth by 4-2. And the reason I got confused there is there was a moment when it was all looking a little bit nervy for Bournemouth again. They had taken the lead through Chloe Gilroy in the 28th minute, but then Bridgewater answered back through Fiona Barry in the 45+1. Bournemouth took the lead into half-time when Molly Barron-Clark in the 45+7th minute put them back in front. But then Elizabeth Gimson equalised again for Bridgewater, and it was 2-2. And it remained 2-2 until there was only a couple of minutes to go of the 90. Kenny Thompson putting Bournemouth back ahead in the 88th minute, and then Lucy Cooper scoring again in the 92nd. So the scoreline of 4-2 doesn't really reflect quite how close Bridgewater were to taking a couple of points away from Bournemouth, and how big that would have been in the title race, with Exeter winning away at Keynsham Town by 5-0. 2 for Sarah Stacey, 9th in the 14th minute, 2 for Jenna Markham, 46th and 53rd, and 1 for Connie Pengelly in the 83rd minute. Meaning that Exeter City won by 5-0. Elsewhere at the weekend, Moneyfields beating Maidenhead United by 2-1. Goal for Megan Fox in the 33rd minute and Gemma Simmons in the 76th, cancelling out the 74th minute goal to Isabella Stockton. So really close there between those two. Abingdon beating Chelsea by 4-0. Kind of no real surprise there. No goals have been put on the system for Abingdon United, but fortunately I have them here because I googled it. Molly Ligo-Jackson in the 3rd and the 90th minute, 1 for Lauren May in the 40th minute, and 1 for Erin Hartigan in the 50th. Kind of unsurprising that Chelsea were defeated there. Obviously they've lost every game so far this season, but Abingdon United with the 4-goal victory. Portishead Town against Exeter City postponed. That was due to a waterlogged pitch yesterday. But that being a midweek game, there are plenty of midweeks they can slot that into. Southwest table then, obviously we knew Chelsea were already relegated. The fight at the top still continues. Bournemouth still know if they win their remaining 5 games, they will be promoted because they have Exeter on the final day of the season. Moneyfields up to 3rd, Swindon Town down to 4th, Abingdon up a couple of places. Great for them, their first season in the league as well, to achieve a top half finish. The other promoted side, Torquay United, struggling much more, and we've gone through in the past the run-in for these sides. This is Southampton women losing this weekend. They've got 3 games to go. They are on 14. They have Bournemouth and then Moneyfields again before playing Maidenhead United on the final day. You sense that it may come down to that final day game against Maidenhead. Portishead Town, they've got 4 still to play. 1 is against Exeter. They then have a huge game against Torquay coming up as well. Bridgewater, who are in 6th, and then they finish off against Chelsea on the final day of the season. So, as I've said in previous weeks, you feel like Portishead are almost on 17 because Chelsea, they're going to get 3 points from Chelsea. So you feel like Portishead are almost on 17, which makes that game against Torquay United so important. If they can win that, they are more than likely safe. And then you're looking at, is it Southampton Women or is it Torquay United? Torquay, with their 3 games to go, they've got Bournemouth coming up this weekend. That's very unlikely. Portishead then the weekend after that is that huge game. And then Swindon, who are in 4th at the moment, on the final day of the season. You then go, okay, you're looking like probably only going to get the win against Portishead. Anything can happen. It's football, of course, but if you were a betting man, you'd say of those 3 games they've got left, Portishead is the one that they're going to win. They're probably not going to beat Bournemouth. They're probably not going to beat Swindon. So then that puts Torquay on a maximum of 14, which only, of course, will bring them level with Southampton Women's and Portishead as it stands at the moment. If you take Portishead out of it with the victory over Chelsea, it then comes down with Southampton Women and Torquay having exactly the same goal difference at the moment. Who is going to lose their games by fewer goals to stay up? Should the goal difference be the same, Torquay have the big advantage there. 28 goals scored to Southampton Women's 22. So it's then a case of not losing by as much as the team you're trying to beat, but that could very easily come down to the final day of the season unless, of course, they lose to Portishead, and then it's starting to look quite unlikely. Right, that is the results and the tables from the past 7 days. Let's now then have a look at what we've got in a very short fixture programme coming up this week, except in the north, which has been the one which has been very hampered by the weather. So 2 games tonight: Huddersfield Town against Nottingham Forest and Liverpool Feds taking on Stoke City. I will just check that at the time of this recording neither of those games have been postponed, and they haven't, but again I will keep you up to date on that throughout the course of the day on Women's Football Chat, W Football Chat on Twitter. And hopefully if they do get called off, it's not raining here at the moment in the East Midlands, then we'll find out well in advance so fans don't travel and we don't have a Halifax versus Forest situation, which is an entirely other kettle of fish because Halifax don't have any free weekends to get this game in. So they are now having to find, because it's outside of the 1 hour 45 window, they are now having to try and find a neutral venue somewhere between the two, which is within the window for both teams to travel to play this game midweek. Very messy. And Halifax are saying it's all down to the referee arriving and calling the game off so late, which, to be fair, there is an argument for that. They said if he had highlighted areas of concern when he arrived well before kick-off, then they could have addressed those issues. The game could have been played. The team's warmed up. So wait to see what happens with that, because they are, as I said, severely running out of weeks. As you can't make it out on the board, but there are so few weeks remaining, and Halifax have still got 5 to play, that time really is running out. So Huddersfield Forest Feds against Stoke City tonight. Then at the weekend, 5 games. Fylde must win against Wolves to stand any chance of staying up. Halifax host Derby, that's 9th against 7th. Newcastle can win the Northern Premier Division with a victory at Kingston Park over Huddersfield Town. It is possible if Stourbridge also get the victory this weekend. It is possible that Huddersfield are down come next week. It is possible. If Stourbridge beat Liverpool Feds, they will move on to 18. If Huddersfield then lose to Forest tonight, and then to Newcastle at the weekend. They'll be down, could all be done. So that's the situation. The Stoke City against Burnley in there as well. Burnley, have to win to keep any kind of mathematical hope alive, but as I said, I'm highly expecting Newcastle to beat Huddersfield, and then the Northern Premier Division will be done. Just one game in the south. Ipswich Town hosting #United. Ipswich in 5th, # in 2nd. #must win, otherwise the Southern Premier Division is done as well. Basically, simple as that. Moving through into Division 1 Midlands, just 2 games. Peterborough United against Northampton Town, kind of a nothing game now in the top half of Division 1 Midlands, but the big one is the game towards the bottom. Sheffield hosting Leek Town. Realistically, Sheffield need to win this game, because if they lose it, they will be 6 points away from safety with 2 games to go, and we've already seen that they are playing teams towards the top of the table. If they can win that game, they will have a glimmer of hope. They will still be, unless there's a 2-goal swing in it, bottom of the table after the weekend, but they will be within just 2 points of safety. Division 1 North, another just 2 games to go through. Then Leeds against Chorley. That is 5th against 9th. Chorley with a win would make themselves mathematically safe pretty much. They'd be 12 clear of York with 4 games to go for York, but York have got Chester Street Town as well. That is that huge game towards the bottom. As I've said, FC United Manchester need a draw or a York win realistically, and even then it's going to be difficult. Chester Street Town and FC United Manchester, the 2 sides that came up from Tier 5, will one of them survive next season? Division 1 South East, 4 games to go to. A nothing Cambridge derby now with Cambridge City down. Cambridge United in 7th. Haywards Heath Town, they're already relegated as well. They take on Norwich City. Norwich must win because if they fail to, then you feel Wimbledon will have the title. Wimbledon themselves, they go away to London Seaward, who are down in 8th, and Worthing in 3rd, have Ashford in 6th. Worthing themselves still with a very, 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 very outside chance, because they're 9 points off with 3 to play, but their goal difference is 36 worse. And finally, in Division 1 Southwest, so Southampton Women's then in their fight, they have AFC Bournemouth. That is a game tonight. And then AFC Bournemouth at the weekend take on Torquay United, 2nd against 11th. And Keynsham Town take on Abingdon. That is just a nothing game in the middle of the table, 7th against 5th. But those are the fixtures coming up over the next 7 days, and that will do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. As I said at the start of the show, please do give the new account at W Football Chat a follow. Be much more active on there with loads of things going on in the world of women's football between now and the end of the season particularly, and then of course we have the summer knockout tournament to give us something to stay excited about throughout the long summer months before the football gets started again in the second half of August. So that will do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. I will be back next Thursday at 6 p.m. How many of those league titles will have been decided, and will anybody be relegated come next week's show? If you are going to a game this weekend, enjoy yourself no matter what team it is you support. Thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat, and goodbye.